Hey, good afternoon. I am Dr. Tasha Meredith, and this is Kingdom International Ministries Virtual Church. I am going to do a quick podcast today, and we're just going to talk a little bit about uh, being afraid. And the title is Don't Be Scurd. Scurd. And our scripture comes from Matthew 14, verse 22 through 33. That's Matthew 14, verse 22 through 33. And it reads, Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went on up the mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Again, that was Matthew 14, verses 22 through 33. And I just want to talk to you a little bit today about taking courage and not being afraid. That's our golden text today. Take courage and do not be afraid. God will give us tests to increase our faith. You know, many of us go through tests and we always wonder, why do I keep going through the same test over and over? And I believe that is for a couple of reasons. One is so that your faith is increased, and two is because oftentimes, until we learn that valuable lesson that God is trying to get us to learn, we're going to keep going through it until we pass the test. I believe that Jesus is our foundation. We have all the tools we need to be successful. All we have to do really is to rely on Jesus as our stepping stone for achievement. Now, as we get into this text, we find that Jesus was walking on the water, and the disciples became afraid. Jesus went to pray, and it's very important for us to have a consistent prayer life. Consistency in our prayer life helps us to reduce challenges that we have, and it increases our faith. Now, why did Jesus walk on the water? Why do you think Jesus walked on the water? There's many hypotheses or many reasons that are stated, but one of the reasons that I think Jesus walked on the water with this particular example is so he could test the faith of the disciples, and specifically the faith of Peter. Peter needed further confirmation of Jesus' Father, because when we look in the text, it says, if you are the Son of Man, if you are the Son of Man, Son of God, rather, I'm sorry, if you are the Son of God. And we already had received confirmation that he was the Son of God. So Peter showed doubt there. So it's very important for us to not be doubtful when God gives us a task or gives us direction to go in. We should pray, increase our faith, and learn to trust God. One of the things that I think Peter was afraid of in this particular text was actually the water itself. He was afraid to sink. And a couple of questions that I'd like for you to ponder. One, what is your water? What are you afraid of? Is there anything you're afraid to do right now? Something that you should have done or should be doing that you just have not done yet? What is your water? Secondly, what has God called you to do that might be afraid of? Is there anything that you feel that you should be doing or should have done up to this point in your life that you have not done yet? And if so, what is preventing you from doing it? What is preventing you from walking on your water? So, what is your water? What are you afraid of doing that you have not done? And what is preventing you from doing it? When we look at the text, we find that fear is a result of the unknown. Specifically, looking at verse 26, it says, when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. I believe that perhaps they were afraid because they thought it was a ghost, but more so because it was something that was unknown to them. Oftentimes we get afraid of things when we are fearful because we don't know necessarily the outcome or how things are going to turn out. When we are fearful of the unknown causes us to be insecure. That's the second point. The unknown causes insecurity. And if we look at verse 27, the scripture says, "But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid.'" And on down at verse 28, they said, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water." If it is you. That shows a little bit of insecurity because they knew it was the Lord. They knew that the Lord had fallen asleep and went to pray. So he said, "If it is you." So the unknown causes insecurity. Fear of the unknown causes insecurity. I submit to you that being insecure is a result of a lack of preparation. When there's things that we need to do, if we don't properly prepare for them, it can cause us to have a little anxiety or cause us to feel insecure. And so I submit to you, if we look at verse 30 here, "But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, 'Lord, save me.'" So he got afraid. He became afraid. Now, if he was a little more prepared, why couldn't he have saved himself? Why did he rely on Jesus to save him? So the fear of the unknown causes insecurity, or fear is a result of the unknown. The unknown causes insecurity. Insecurity is a direct result of a lack of preparation. And finally, a lack of preparation is a direct result of a lack of faith. We look at verse 31. The scripture says, "Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. 'You of little faith,' he said, 'why did you doubt?'" Why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? He became fearful of the unknown. His unknown caused him to be insecure. Being insecure was a direct result of a lack of preparation, and a lack of preparation, perhaps, was a direct result of a lack of faith. If he had faith in Jesus from the very beginning, perhaps he wouldn't have gotten in that position from the get-go. We look at verse 32. and we try to apply this to our real life, I would say that when we find Jesus, fear disappears. Verse 32, and when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. Immediately when they realized who it was and realized that it was Jesus, their fear disappeared and their faith increased. We go down to verse 33. When those who were in the boat worshipped him, those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. When fear disappears, insecurity and doubt dissipate, and we can worship freely. So as our faith increases, our fear decreases, our belief in God and in Jesus increases, our insecurities and our doubts go away. And that allows us to have an open and free worship experience. Don't be afraid. Take courage. It is I. When you're able to worship freely, you can have a life of freedom, and you can begin to live life on purpose. Jesus is our foundation. We all have the tools we need to be successful. Fear must be a stepping stone for achieving that. Again, don't be scared. Don't be fearful. Don't be afraid. Don't be like Peter was out on that water. Know that Jesus is in your life. Know that you have the freedom and the ability to be who and whatever it is you want. God bless you. I'm Dr. Tasha Meredith, and this is Kingdom International Ministries Virtual Church, a podcast. Thank you.